Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Michelle Saeed, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we're thrilled to have Dr. Victoria Mattingly, PhD or Dr. V, the founder and CEO of Mattingly Solutions, joining us. Based in Pittsburgh, Victoria is an industrial organizational psychologist and DEI trailblazer whose woman-owned firm uses data-driven, human-centered solutions to build inclusive workplaces for clients. And she's the co-author of the groundbreaking book, Inclusalytics, and a dynamic speaker, which she's going to talk about today. She's redefining how organizations measure and achieve DEI, and we'll explore her founding story, how Mattingly Solutions drives workplace inclusion, and her vision for scaling this mission-driven consultancy. So with that being said, let's dive in. Victoria, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you so much for having me.
Likewise, we're excited to have you on the pod today. Let's kick things off for our listeners. Take us back to the beginning. What specific problem within the DEI landscape, perhaps around ineffective metrics or lack of inclusion, inspired you to start Mattingly Solutions after corporate?
So, my Mattingly origin story is how I left my last corporate job that I worked for, which is I burnt out. And I'm an organizational psychologist, meaning I use data and science to make life better for people in the workplace. And so I felt like I was like a medical doctor telling my clients not to smoke. And I was outside smoking a pack a day. I was the organizational psychologist who burnt out at her job. What is
Wow.
happening? So, I took the summer off, and when it was time to get back on the market, I was just like, people have called me entrepreneurial. I've never really understood why, because I've never started a business. I don't consider myself very business minded. I'm in this to actually help people. But I also saw it as the most direct way I could potentially help people. So it was an experiment at first. First, I was like, can I get a client? And I
Mm.
started listing on my email signature my new company name and Mattingly Solutions CEO, whatever. And my friend saw my signature and she called me up and she's like, I have a client I can't take on right now. If you're in your own shop, let me hand this client off to you. So that's how I got my first client, was through a friend. But it all started as an experiment. Can I get a client? Can I get two clients? Can I make X amount by X date? And I kept hitting those goals. And that was in August of 2019 when I officially got the LLC. And then I really grew it throughout 2020 and 2021 up until it was a 10-person company at one point. And now it's back to being just me. And so it's really interesting how entrepreneurship ebbs and flows. But that's like my origin story. Was I burnt out and I wanted to try something different and have a consulting firm where I only work 40 hours a week. That should be enough. Like I don't have to work 60 or 70. I can just
Yeah.
work 40.
I am so happy for you and really you're sharing that. And I want to dive now into really through that unique experience, how you really shape what you do for your clients. So let's get into the nuts and bolts for the listeners and even, some of the potential clients that have gone through this, or maybe they are experiencing that as well. Walk us through your core offerings for Mattingly Solutions, DEI scorecards, advisory coaching. How do you structure what you do for your clients to help them with that?
So I think this largely goes back to the books. So my first book was supposed to be on allyship. My dissertation work was on allyship. But at the time when we decided to write a book, my company self-published this book, Inclusalytics. All these new DEI functions were starting from scratch
Mm.
or getting reinvigorated or getting actual budget and like actual resources behind it. I'm like, I need to bring my organizational psychology skill set into this space and help these DEI leaders take a more data driven approach to their work. So when Inclusalytics was real big, we were doing a lot of data centric DEI work, helping organizations measure DEI, helping organizations build a data driven DEI strategy, helping build functions of DEI, like structure and organizations, very hands on, deep consulting to help build data into the infrastructure of DEI. Excuse me. So that's inclusilytics consulting, very hands-on.
Mm.
I'm pivoting because it's just me now. It's not a 10-person company anymore. It's just me now. So I've pivoted to keynotes and coaching. So I do 60-minute keynotes, and it usually has to do something around allyship. So my next book is on allyship, all about how to both be an ally and work with an ally. Because most books, there's a lot of books on how to be a good ally. There's no excuse for people to not be good allies, but there's nothing about the person working with the ally. So you're getting that other side of the story and being able to speak on that topic of allyship and what it means to be an ally, what it means to work with an ally, what it means to come together across our differences and build something bigger and better together. So I'm giving a lot of keynotes on allyship, and it lends itself nicely to each organization has a different angle they want to talk about allyship. It could be allyship at the organization name, allyship at Meta, allyship at UPMC, or it could be allyship for. So allyship for women, for people of color, for cancer survivors, like whatever the thing is, mental health, that's a big one. And
Yeah.
May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I've been selling mental health awareness and allyship keynotes to organizations, and some are really big, like some are like really big companies. So I'm so excited to share this story, my own personal story, plus best practices around mental health in the workplace. But it's all under the umbrella of allyship. So I used to do inclusilytics consulting, and now I do allyship keynote speaking.
I love that. You're doing a lot of thought leadership. You're getting in the right spaces and rooms and really creating advocacy for those that really need it. Now, many founders, they face a moment where they almost gave up. And I know you mentioned some of your early years as well and like really what got you started. Did you have a moment like that with Mattingly Solutions? And how did you push through it more for like our listeners and founders who are trying to find their footing very early in their journey? If we can share a bit on that.
It's been hard so much. I didn't make money for the first like 9 months or something. Like I made just enough to keep scraping by. If my husband, I had the privilege of having a husband who was able to support us at that time. It was during COVID times too. So we weren't out, no one was out spending money or anything. So I had that privilege. Honestly, it's been recently because DEI has turned into a bad word. My profession, my industry is getting explicitly targeted with executive orders and governmental involvement, and companies are rolling back on DEI or getting rid of it or renaming it, right? So like it's DEI is in such crossfires right now
Yeah.
that I've had to pivot. And a cool thing is there's a list from like NSF or some sort of government agency, and all these words were like supposed to be red flagged, and ally was not one of them. So I can continue to just talk about allyship and have my book that's coming out in August about allyship, knowing that it's not DEI. So I've had to shift to like be able to handle it in the current environment because it's rough right now. It's rough for everyone, but it's real rough for DEI people right now. Not to belabor the point.
No, it's so tough, especially if you care so much and you're really, that's where the specialization is. And then there's that other side where they're not supportive. Absolutely. It's very unique in its challenge. And I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs necessarily go through that specific instance, but the fact that you push through that still and you're still breaking those barriers, it speaks a lot. I want to talk now about you built a lot of success really with Flexential and a lot of the breweries as well. How are you currently acquiring your customers? Which channels, whether it is like LinkedIn, thought leadership, some of your own like keynote speaking or referrals have been the most effective for landing DEI contracts?
So I'll give you a good example. So I go to a lot of conferences. I try to get to places where my ideal buyers or 1 degree away from that ideal buyer is there. And I meet people at conferences and I see where they work because it's on their badge. And so I say, do y'all bring in external speakers? And they'll say yes, because they do. Can you get me in touch with the person I could talk to about that, whether they're in wellness? Because if it's mental health in the workplace, that definitely falls under wellness. And that's nice because that's not even DEI at all. That's not, there's still wellness people in organizations.
Yeah.
Or they connect me to HR, marketing. But that's been really great. And it's because I have such a keynote is a very specific service
Mm.
that people understand what it is. I feel like when I was doing the Inclusilytics consulting, I had to do so much explaining of what the product or service was and what the value was and what we'll do and what success looks like. And like for a keynote, success is just giving a good keynote and like having the topic aligned to what matters in the organization at that time. And so it's been very much through networking. I'm getting my most recent clients, but I've also gotten some clients or at least some leads through LinkedIn. So I post a lot to LinkedIn. I share my one pager. I talk about being a keynote speaker. I get footage from I spoke at a Disrupt HR event a few weeks ago or just last week. And I'll be sharing that footage whenever that comes out because that was recorded. And not to be like TMI, but it was about visible differences in the workplace. And I'm actually bald under this wig that I'm wearing. And I was wearing a different wig that was more like my natural hair. I used to have this bright red curly hair. It was like a key feature of who I was. And I lost it to alopecia. So I'm on stage for Disrupt HR. My very first slide, it's from Jay-Z and it says, allow me to reintroduce myself. And I pulled the wig off and I threw it out into the audience at my husband and he caught it. And then I gave the whole speech bald, and it was like super empowering. It was about visible differences in the workplace and how do we create space for that, whether it's baldness or tattoos or weight loss or gain or whatever the thing is, being pregnant. Like we bring these visible differences in, but we don't talk about how to navigate it. I completely forget what got me onto that topic, though. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. From what it sounds like, I love the fact that you're getting in rooms and you're really leveraging a lot of conferences and a lot of like your own keynote speaking to build with some of the personas that you want to work with and deal with. I'd love to learn more now about your approach to sales and what's been the most effective in converting some of the leads that do come in, whether they're through LinkedIn, whether they're through some of the speaking engagements you're having as well into more long-term clients. Are you leveraging more speaking gigs, LinkedIn? How are you managing sales? Are you doing it solo right now, or do you have a team that's also backing you up?
I'm a solopreneur at the moment, so I don't have a team backing me up. I definitely take a very inbound marketing approach where I put a lot of content and value out there. And then when people are ready, they'll start coming to me. I did just go to a conference, and so I got a lot of leads at that conference that I've been following up with. Even just me posting about being a keynote speaker and people like the post on LinkedIn, I'll message them if they work for a decent sized company and ask if they bring in keynote speakers, and that's already led to some success. So I think it's just, I like the inbound marketing approach. I like the putting value out there. I have my podcast, Better Humans at Work, where I bring people on who are doing good work in this space and amplify their voices. And I hear at the conference, someone was like, you're LinkedIn famous. And I was like, I don't know about that. And she's like, you're LinkedIn famous. And she like took a picture with me. It was so funny. But like people are watching. People know I'm the inclusion and allyship person. And so when they need someone like that, they know to reach out. But I've been putting a lot out there lately and manifesting it. I called myself a keynote speaker before I landed my first contract because I was capable of being a keynote speaker and that's what I was selling. And now I am a keynote speaker because I am getting paid to do it.
Yeah, you manifested it. I love it. Into existence. That's amazing. I love the fact though that you're not afraid to go out there and really engage with some of the people who see some of the posts on LinkedIn, a lot of that thought leadership. It really does say a lot to some of the listeners who are tuning in and they might be hesitant or they might feel like I'm taking a backseat approach. I'm going to expect them to land in my inbox. But no, I love the fact that you're for it. You're really creating that mutual relationship, right? Even if something doesn't more concretely come out of it. And from what it sounds like, this growth has been super incredible. If there was like a bottleneck that stood out right now for Mattingly Solutions, like what would it be? Is it scaling right now on like the lead acquisition side, navigating as well DEI pushback or something else? Like what's top of focus to keep the momentum going?
So my next book is coming out in August, and that's really quick. Like I turned in the manuscript in February. So that's a really quick turnaround for a book. And from that book, as I mentioned before, I have so many keynotes associated with allyship that would go so nicely with the book. And I want everyone to get a copy of the book and they can sit in the audience and act like an ally, work with ally.
Oh,
And so they can flip it back and forth. You can see the different covers. The fact that I have to wait until August is just so painful. And I'm trying to still sell allyship keynotes with the forthcoming promise of the book. But like once the book is out, it's just going to be such a strong and mighty marketing tool to get more keynote speeches. Because if I get my full wage, and sometimes you negotiate and you work within budgets, you got to do what you got to do. But if I got my full wage for 2 virtual keynotes a month,
mm,
that could be my salary.
mm.
That could be my salary. And that's such little, that's 2 hours of time. Like you still have to do all the marketing and the networking and everything around it. That's not the only thing you're doing. It takes a lot to get those 2 a month. But if I could just get 2 a month, I could have a nice lifestyle. So that's what I'm working towards. So the biggest bottleneck is waiting for that key piece, that book. And in the meantime, I'll just keep selling what I can in the meantime and try to hold out till then.
Absolutely. But I love the fact that you're so open about that. You're vocal really about what that pathway is going to look like and what you're working on in the meantime as well. Really not narrowing yourself to one way, but diversifying the ways in which you can connect with your ideal buyer personas. Now, with everything you've accomplished, really just publishing Inclusalytics and serving major clients, what's top of mind for growing Mattingly Solutions over the next 6 to 12 months? What does that runway look like in 2025?
I really see picking up with these keynotes, and I used to like poo-poo the idea of a keynote. Like when I was doing the inclusalytics type work, like really helping to reshape systems and build structure for DEI, data-driven DEI to take form in organizations. I would be like, oh, keynotes are just like a waste of time. Like they're not, it's not systemic change. It's not that deep, like systems level change. The keynote, so DEI is a change management initiative. You are changing core components of the organization to get these outcomes, the DEI related outcomes. And so what you're doing with a keynote is part of that change management. It's part of getting people to think differently and changing hearts and minds. It's actually like with allyship, it's inviting people into DEI, into this work who don't typically feel like they're part of it. Like one of the big issues with DEI right now is there's a lot of older white men who feel left out, and DEI done right includes older white men, straight men, able-bodied cis men, right? That's part of the diversity picture. And so allyship says, hey, like you have a role to play too. We're all going to be in this together. That's where I see it going and being really driven by the keynotes to spark the hearts and minds. Sell a ton of books. I want to sell a boatload of books. I want to, because like Inclusalytics, that was for the DEI practitioner. It was very specific, like how DEI leaders take a data-driven approach to their work. That's what
Right.
Inclusalytics is. This allyship book, this is for anyone who wants to work with someone who's different than them, whether as their ally or with an ally, right? It's for anyone. And I wanted to just have like really broad impact. And as I said, I could do 2, 3 keynotes a month, and that would be enough to sustain a solopreneur. And then I would grow if I wanted to grow. Like next year, I
Mhm.
could bring on other speakers and do a mini like speakers bureau sort of situation where that way it doesn't always have to be me, the one that's speaking. Or maybe I build up more virtual courses because my current virtual course called Ally Up, it's
Mhm.
on Udemy, and it has over 15,000 users. Like it's wild. And that was that started as my dissertation research. So to turn my dissertation into something that 15,000 users have adopted and have completed this course, it's really amazing. So maybe I do a follow-up virtual course to it. And then also with the book, there's an accompanying like reflection and conversation guide to reflect on the content and also talk to the other side. So if you're reading it as the ally, questions for your partner, like that you're working with, or if it's for the partner, it's questions for your ally. But people have to enter their email address to get that. And so that list is going to grow and I add them to the newsletter. So like I see my growth coming from all these things I've already built and how they'll all be executed around the book. So that's why it's such a bottleneck because it doesn't come out till August.
Ah, I'm excited though because it sounds like it's going to be the catalyst and really like that's what's going to create that snowball effect for you later on as you start to ramp up with that traction, essentially getting into more rooms and starting some more conversations. Now, one last question as we're in the lightning round. For some of the listeners, mainly entrepreneurs and founders that are looking to follow in your footsteps, Victoria, what's like the best piece of advice you would give to them about scaling a consultancy in an industry like DEI, right, where there is some of that pushback, perhaps something you've learned from like a mentor or one of your colleagues, if you can share.
Just put the thing out there because you're always going to shape it and reform it. I've gone through so many different ways of packaging my services. What are my offerings? How restructuring the website? And if you just iterate as you go, but just put something out there to get started. Give something out that people can react to that will then help inform what the next iteration of it is. Don't feel like it has to be perfect and don't feel like you're stuck with it forever. Because even though right now I'm only selling keynotes and coaching, if a really cool project came along that would pay my fee for the next 6 months, like being like maybe like I was like a fractional chief inclusion officer or something.
Yeah.
Like I would do that. Like it's not on my pricing list and it's not on the website, and that's fine. That's the cool thing about being an entrepreneur, but you have to put something out there first so
Yeah.
people can react to it and you can actually make traction with it. And as I said, I was calling myself a keynote speaker before I booked my first keynote speech. And now I am a keynote speaker because I have booked keynote speeches. So you
Yeah.
got to just take the plunge and put things out there and manifest what you want to happen because that's what entrepreneurship is. It's taking nothing and turning it into something. Like that's really powerful as opposed to just like working at a day job, right? Like you're part of someone else's vision. But for as entrepreneur, you are the envisioner and like you can make whatever you want to happen. If you are good at what you're doing and you can get your name out there and get people to know about you. So that'd be my biggest recommendation. Just put stuff out there.
Absolutely. And it only matters once it is tangible at the end of the day. It's one of the harsher lessons in entrepreneurship, but just doing it, putting it into practice, manifesting it, and really making it count. And I love the fact that you've done that already with Inclusalytics and a lot of the keynote speaking you're doing. You are who you embody. And we're super excited to follow your journey this year as well as you launch the book and get started as well with getting more engagements. On that note, that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. Victoria, thank you so much for sharing your remarkable journey with us today. You have a ton of roots in organizational psychology to founding Mattingly Solutions. You're transforming workplaces with data-driven DEI solutions and revolutionizing this industry. So to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find some more resources and insights at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their growth through trained appointment setters and world-class sales systems. Until then, keep climbing, and we'll see you all on the next one.